Now let's look at the secondary prevention studies. I want you to look at the first one, the A4 study. This is a very important study. There are 1,000 people that are going to be entered into the A4 study. So far, as of today, there are 385. They're going to be randomized. 500 will get solanezumab and 500 will get placebo. To be in this study, you have to be 65 and above, cognitively normal, but have a positive amyloid PET scan. So you're in that secondary prevention window. And then you get, for 3 years, every 4 weeks, you get an infusion of that antibody to affect the amyloid. And after 3 years, we'll see whether we're able to actually delay or prevent Alzheimer's disease with that antibody. That's the A4 study. We're still looking for volunteers. It's active. If you want to be in that study, say you have a family history of dementia and you're interested and you're over 65 and cognitively normal, you're very welcome to come to Mayo, and we'll be happy to screen you to see if you qualify. But it is a tremendous commitment. It requires coming every 4 weeks for an infusion. There are places probably closer that, and if you want to look it up, clinicaltrials.gov, it'll give you, and look up A4, all the sites in the whole world that are doing it. And if there's one closer to where you live, you could join that. So that's a really important study. The next study is the Diane study. So here we take people with those who carry the gene that they will get the disease. And then we randomize them to get a treatment study or a placebo. Fortunately, we have 2 or 3 treatment studies, but only 1 placebo arm. So your chances are much higher that you'll get the active drug. And this, the answer to that will come out, I think, this year or next year, whether that is helpful in that group. Then there's the ApoE4 homozygote study. So people who carry that ApoE4 are at risk of Alzheimer's disease. People with the 2 4s are at much higher risk, and the onset is much earlier. And the study will start this year. 2% of the population have ApoE4 homozygotes, or ApoE4 homozygotes. So we have to screen 100 people before we get 2 people that are eligible for the study. And this particular study is going to be actual immunization. Instead of having infusions every 4 weeks, we're going to inject people and make their own antibodies against the amyloid. That has been shown to be effective in making antibodies, this particular immunization. The Colombian kindred study, so there's the presenilin 1 mutation. This one family in Colombia has 50,000 family members that are carriers. So we can do the study in them alone. And so there's a big study going on in Colombia to see whether we can actually help that family. So these are the secondary prevention studies. Just to tell you, not only can we do a scan now and see the amyloid, we can do a PET scan and see the tau, which is a major breakthrough in our understanding. So this is a person with aphasia who has the tau deposited in the language areas. This is a person with memory problems who have Alzheimer's disease. This is a person who has visual problems from Alzheimer's, and you can see it's in the back of the brain. So where the tau is are where the symptoms are. The tau, the amyloid doesn't give you where the amyloid's everywhere. But where the tau occurs is where the symptoms are. So, in summary, I think our dream to delay or prevent Alzheimer's disease is getting closer. I'm actually quite excited about what's happening. And I think secondary prevention is now underway and hopefully will be successful in helping so many people we need to help. So I'll stop there and take any questions you want. Go ahead.
Can you just explain a little more in detail what the tau is? Is that tangles or?
Yeah. So the two pathologies in Alzheimer's disease are the amyloid pathology, which are plaques, and this amyloid beta protein is deposited all around the brain. The tau is another pathology that's deposited in cells, and it causes the cells to die or not work. And when the cells die or not work, the tau is a sort of a marker of what the deficit will be. First starts the amyloid, followed by the tau.
Your opinion on Prevagen?
On
the drug of Prevagen?
Prevagen.
Prevagen? I believe it's a prescription drug that they're touting to increase memory.
I don't know, I'll have to look up what that is, but I don't know. Yeah.
I don't think it's a prescription.
No, I think that's something that you see on the television.
It's a supplement, is it?
It's a supplement.
Okay.
It's non-FDA controlled.
Yeah, so on all of those supplements, I think there are a bunch of folks out there making money. If you take my list of things that I gave you, there are no side effects and there's evidence supporting it. I showed you prospective studies showing that. So these supplements, the ones when I read them, they have things like ginkgo biloba, which hasn't worked. They have acetyl-carnitine, which hasn't worked. They have all sorts of stuff, but they charge you a lot of money for it. I think just eating effectively probably is, eating the Mediterranean diet makes a lot of sense to me.
Can you talk more about the testing for the mutated gene?
So the testing for the mutated gene in families with dominantly inherited Alzheimer's disease, so generation after generation, age of onset around 30 to 50, then you can send off a blood test to what we call a CLEAR approved lab. That's a government approved lab. Mayo Labs or Athena Neuroscience will do this, and then they look for all the genes in the 3 Alzheimer related genes, and it's very expensive. It's thousands of dollars, and I don't think it's worth doing except for the following circumstances. If you want to be in the Diane study, the Diane will pay for it for you. But they will do it with genetic counseling. So they will tell you what the risk is of finding out. It's depressing, and you can have difficulty getting long-term insurance as examples of some of the things that... But some people want to know because it affects whether they're going to have children. That makes sense to me, that if you want to know, and you should know that. I think it also makes sense to find out if you're willing to be in a treatment study, because then you want to know. So if you're going to be in the Diane treatment study, why not find out, and then you help in the world and you may help yourself and your family. So I think those are the circumstances. Also, you should know that early onset dementia, even although we might call it, it looks like Alzheimer's disease, we may be completely wrong. It may be a frontotemporal dementia gene that looks like Alzheimer's disease. So some of the frontotemporal dementia dominantly inherited ones, so you might miss it on the Alzheimer group, but get it on the frontotemporal dementia panel, another $5,000. So you actually, there are a lot of subtleties to managing this.
Did I understand that statistic of 60 to 80% of Alzheimer's is inherited?
Yes, you were right.
Isn't that a high amount?
It is. It's extraordinary, isn't it? Many of these multiple diseases, like diabetes or coronary artery disease, they're the same kind of things. So if you add it up, if you do the twin studies, which is, so you do homozygote twins and heterozygote twins, that's the best way to look at the percentage that's inherited. So that's a very big study with 370 twin pairs or something that they actually looked at that. So yes, that is those are the correct numbers.